After a big fight with my boyfriend because he was unwilling to get married, I ran into him using the marriage certificate to buy a diamond ring. The friend with him couldn't help asking, "Aren't you afraid that Yuki will be angry and leave you if you do this?" Looking at the marriage certificate in his hand, he said indifferently, "You say that Yuki has been in a relationship for 5 years with others. Isn't this a second marriage? Nina is in love with me for the first time. Of course, I have to give her a proper status. Moreover, Yuki won't be angry at all. She will obediently stay by my side even if she is willing to be a mistress." I didn't cry or make a fuss. I burned everything about us cleanly and then cut off all contact with him. When I received Leo's call, there was a photo of a marriage certificate on the computer in front of me. "Yuki, can you stop being so unreasonable? I've already said that my parents now hope that I will make a career before getting married. Why are you forcing me? Is getting married so important?" The right hand holding the marriage certificate in the photo is wearing a hand-knitted chain. At just one glance, I know that there is still a shallow scar hidden under the bracelet. That was when Leo was scratched by a knife while protecting me 7 years ago. Tears had already dried up. I listened to myself suppressing my voice and said, "It's really not that important. So let's break up. Don't contact each other again in the future." Before Leo could speak, I hung up the phone directly and cleaned out all the things that proved us one by one. When seeing the things piled up like a small mountain in the yard, a trace of sadness couldn't help but well up in my heart. After being in love with Leo for 7 years, I thought we had reached the point where we could get married, but every time this matter was brought up, we always had a big fight for various reasons. Until yesterday, when I accidentally saw him buying a diamond ring with his marriage certificate and ID card, I finally understood why he was unwilling to marry me. He had always minded that before him, I had been in a relationship that lasted for 5 years. This experience made me a second marriage woman. In his heart, purity and innocence have nothing to do with me since then. So he found a girl who was in love with him for the first time. Even on the day they got the marriage certificate, he deliberately chose the day of our 7th anniversary of being in love. The most absurd thing is that when I followed Leo's account and found the girl's Weibo, the girl is called Nina. Because her Weibo account records her daily love life, she has become a small blogger with hundreds of thousands of fans. She graduated from the same university as me, majored in the same major, and even had the same graduate advisor as me. More importantly, she looks 3 points similar to me. Because he thinks I am not pure enough, he is unwilling to marry me, and because he can't let me go, he found a girl so similar to me to marry. After being in love for 7 years, I never knew he had such an idea. He could have not confessed to me at the beginning, or at any moment in these 7 years, tell me clearly about his concerns. I will be sad and heartbroken, but I will definitely not, as he said, pester him and be willing to be a mistress and stay by his side. But what did he do? Arrogantly guessing my thoughts, condescendingly designing a scam, deceiving me and humiliating me. I took out a lighter and without hesitation lit all the items in front of me that symbolized our being together. After the fire burned out, I packed my luggage, booked the earliest flight leaving Lincheng, and headed straight to the airport. When the plane was about to take off, I received a text message from Leo. "Yuki, are you still throwing such a tantrum at your age? Let's not contact each other these days. Calm down first." I ignored it and just clicked into Nina's Weibo. 1 minute ago, she had just updated a Weibo post. After my husband knew that I haven't had a candlelight dinner, he immediately took me to have one. I am so happy. It's also hard for Leo. Having a candlelight dinner with his beloved wife and still not forgetting my existence. In the 9 pictures posted, in addition to the hand wearing a diamond ring, there are also their chat records. Every word and sentence is Leo's tenderness and doting on Nina. There is no sign of the irritability and impatience when he is with me. I patiently flipped through it bit by bit and learned everything about them. A year ago, Leo rescued the beauty heroically. Since then, the two have known each other. The girl's thoughts are hard to hide, but unfortunately Leo has never responded. Until half a year ago, Leo suddenly took the initiative to confess and arranged an extremely grand confession ceremony. The ground is full of roses and candles, dreamy and romantic balloons and ribbons. It is almost the confession that all girls dream of. Hee, my boyfriend can't let down my half-year's efforts and love. So he must give me a very grand confession. Looking at the overwhelming blessings in the comments, even though I already knew it, there was still a faint pain in my heart. Half a year ago happened to be the time when I mentioned getting married to Leo for the first time. At that time, Leo was unwilling to get married and even had a big fight with me for this. Leo felt that he couldn't let down Nina's half-year's love, but he let my 7 years become a joke. Even in the half-year of being in a relationship, he took Nina to the places we had agreed on one by one and took one photo after another. After saving those Weibo posts one by one, I blocked all of Leo's contact information and pressed the power off button of my phone. For 3 consecutive months, except for reporting safety to my family, I didn't contact anyone. My brother mentioned that Leo was looking for me, but after noticing that I was too indifferent to this matter, he never mentioned it again. I went to many places I wanted to go, but Leo didn't allow me to go. I saw many sceneries I had never seen before and also met all kinds of novel and interesting partners. After the journey ended, I returned to Lincheng. When I saw Leo, who had been waiting for a long time at the airport, I found that there was not a single ripple in my heart. Yuki, do I need to remind you that you are already 30? At such an age, acting like a little girl. Running away from home and throwing a tantrum. Isn't it embarrassing? I held the suitcase and didn't bother to ask how he knew my flight. I just said calmly, first, I am 27 this year, not 30. Second, where I go and what I do is my freedom. I don't need to consider how old I am and care about your thoughts. Third, we have broken up. That is not my home. Leo was stunned for a moment and then suddenly grabbed my hand tightly. What do you mean? Yuki, there should be a limit to throwing a tantrum. I pulled away his hand and looked at him calmly. Leo, we have known each other for 20 years and been in love for 7 years. You should know that I don't like joking. When I say break up, it means break up. Yuki, I think you are really crazy. Leo looked at me angrily. He pointed at me and said, in these 3 months, there is no news from you. I inquired about your whereabouts everywhere, fearing that something might happen to you. But in the end, you played outside alone for 3 months without caring about my worry at all. Don't you think you are too excessive, worried? Although I didn't deliberately pay attention to his and Nina's movements, I also saw a hot search video. It was a video of him taking Nina skiing on the snow mountain. In the video, the two are handsome and beautiful. They get along harmoniously and are doting on each other. Especially when someone asked for Nina's contact information, Leo stood in front domineeringly and said, sorry, this is my wife. We have a marriage certificate. This scene made many netizens feel that it was sweet and they liked it. Along with it, Nina's Weibo and video account gained millions of fans. Several consecutive couple videos also got millions of likes. For a while, she was extremely popular. This is the worry in Leo's mouth. Hypocritical and artificial. Leo, we are not married. I looked at him sarcastically and said impatiently. I don't need your consent. To break up only needs to be announced unilaterally. If you think a phone call is not formal enough, then I will tell you formally now. We break up. From now on, we will act as if we don't know each other. Despite Leo's obstruction, I got in the car and left directly. To avoid trouble, I announced the breakup in my circle of friends and our shared groups and emphasized not to disclose Leo's news to me again. I thought that Leo, a person with extremely strong self-esteem, would cut off contact with me from then on. But he abnormally started to pester me constantly, calling and texting. When blocked, he would change to another number. In just half a month, I received hundreds of calls and nearly 1,000 text messages. Not only that, he even joined forces with our friends to put on one grand ceremony after another to beg me to change my mind. Relatives, friends, parents. He tried every means to find everyone who knew me. Compared to his sincerity and persistence, my neglect seemed cold and heartless. Even Grandpa, who had always been aloof from worldly affairs, learned about this matter and called me specifically to ask what was going on. In response, I just calmly asked Grandpa, "Grandpa, this is not getting back together. This is harassment and threat. Don't worry about this matter. I can handle it." After a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, Grandpa said, "If there is anything you need Grandpa to help with, just say it." After hanging up the phone, I suddenly received an unexpected private message on my Weibo. Nina found me and asked to meet me. I arrived at the agreed small tavern and saw Nina sitting by the window. She was wearing a white dress and looked pure and innocent. When she saw me coming, she said with a smile, "You are even more beautiful in person than in photos." I frowned and looked at her and said, "So you have known for a long time that Leo has always had a girlfriend?" Nina nodded calmly and said righteously, "Of course. This tavern is where we first met. He is good-looking, gentle and polite. I almost fell in love with him at first sight. But as a result, he directly pushed me away and kept muttering your name. At that moment, I swore that I must get him. Look, in the end, it's still me who marries him. Yuki, you lost." Hearing this, I sneered and said, "If you are so sure that you have won, then why did you come to find me? It can't be that your proud marriage is about to break up, right?" Hearing this, Nina immediately stood up and said angrily, "No way. Yuki, since you don't like Leo anymore, why don't you break up with him cleanly? Why are you still pestering her?" Looking at the crazy Nina, I said impatiently, "Then please take good care of your husband and don't harass me. He is not troublesome all day long. I think he is in the way. Then tell him." Nina eagerly grabbed my hand and looked at me with her eyes fixed. "You say that you have fallen in love with someone else. You cheated, so you want to break up with him. In this way, he will give up and be with me, well, right?" I wanted to pull away her hand, but unfortunately Nina held on too tightly. "Nina, why should I ruin my reputation for your marriage? If you are crazy, go to a mental hospital. I am not a psychiatrist." "Really?" Nina gave a strange smile and looked at me and said, "Then let's test it and see who he loves more." As soon as the words fell, the chandelier above suddenly shook and then directly fell down towards us. Nina held me tightly and refused to let go no matter what. At this crucial moment, Leo suddenly rushed towards us. At the most critical moment, I pulled Nina's hand away and stepped aside. Nina was hit squarely by the falling crystal chandelier. Leo didn't have time to care about his injured back. He quickly grabbed my arm and said with distress, "Yuki, you are injured. I'll take you to the hospital right now." At this time, a hand grabbed Leo's trouser leg. "Leo." Leo froze on the spot. At this time, I pulled Leo's hand away. "What, pretending not to know each other? This is your newlywed wife not long after marriage. Why don't you dare to look at her now?" Leo was completely panicked. He quickly stopped me and said, "Yuki, listen to my explanation. This is just an accident." "Accident?" I took out my phone and directly pulled up Nina's account. I showed it to Leo one by one and then sneered. "Are all these accidents? Your confession to Nina is an accident. Your repeated agreements to kiss are accidents. Getting the marriage certificate is also an accident. Why don't you say that you are an accident?" I pointed at Nina lying on the ground and continued. "Even when she comes to find you, you still say it's an accident. Leo, have some shame." Leo still wanted to rush over, but I slapped him directly. Nina screamed when she saw this. "Yuki! You actually dare to hit him? I will kill you." But before Nina could rush over, Leo pushed Nina, who was covered in blood, away first. "Have you made enough trouble? This is between me and Yuki. You don't need to interfere." Hearing this, Nina looked at Leo in disbelief. Leo turned back and kept begging. "Yuki, I was just bewitched for a moment. I didn't really mean to do these things. Don't you want to get married? Tell me what kind of wedding you want. I'll divorce her immediately and then we can have our wedding, okay?" Because the chandelier fell in the tavern, many people had already gathered around. Hearing this, they all looked at us in surprise. Being looked at by such suspicious eyes, I became more and more impatient and couldn't help scolding. Leo, if you are willing to be an animal doesn't mean I am willing to be with you. We had been in a relationship for 7 years. As a result, you secretly dated Nina and even got a marriage certificate with her half a year ago behind my back. You even had the nerve to say that I can't leave you even if I am a mistress. Why don't you pee on your face to wake yourself up? What kind of daydream are you having? At this point, I looked at Nina on the side again. And you? You deliberately pestered him even though you knew he had a girlfriend. When Leo regretted and wanted a divorce, you shamelessly came to me and asked me to admit that I cheated so that he would give up. You two are really people on the same marriage certificate. Scumbag and bitch. Locked together to cause less harm. What a bad luck. I left the tavern. After finding a clinic to treat the injury on my arm, I directly spread all the things. I didn't say it before because I didn't want it to be too embarrassing. Now it seems that it was unnecessary to give them this face. After knowing this, my parents were furious and directly cut off contact with Leo's family. My brother was so angry that he almost wanted to go find Leo and fight. Fortunately, I stopped him in time and didn't want to continue to entangle with them. Leo's parents came to the door and apologized for Leo's behavior. It was only then that I found out that Leo had secretly obtained the marriage certificate without telling his parents. Yuki, Leo was wrong in this matter. You have 7 years of relationship. He was just confused for a moment. Give him another chance. Before I could speak, Mom, who heard this, scolded first. I finally know why Leo is so shameless. It turns out there are you two here as examples. My Yuki is excellent in appearance, family background and ability. She can live well without getting married. Why should she wrong herself and marry a divorced man? Get out. Dad also looked serious. I have notified the group and cut off our cooperation project. In the future, the two families should not have any contact anymore. My hot-tempered brother even directly brought the broom for sweeping the garden and said threateningly, "If you don't go out, are you preparing to let me sweep your family of rubbish out?" After driving Leo's parents away, my parents asked the housekeeper to find a lot of mugwort leaves and pomelo leaves, saying that they wanted to get rid of bad luck so as not to be entangled by villains again. I was helpless and could only accept these kindnesses. I didn't expose that the two clearly wanted to go on a couple's trip. Instead, I directly took over the company's affairs. My brother likes painting and is not interested in doing business. The Yuki family will sooner or later be taken over by me. It's better to get familiar with everything earlier. Leo finally stopped appearing in front of me, and the group's affairs gradually got on the right track. Just when I thought a new life was about to come, my Weibo suddenly received a large number of private messages abusing me, denouncing me as a mistress and slut one after another. There were even many people threatening to kill me. Even the comment area of the official blog of the Yuki family group quickly fell and had to be temporarily closed. When I took a closer look, I realized that Nina had posted a video. In the video, she was covered in gauze and bandages. Her face was haggard and fragile. She cried pitifully about her unwillingness. In the video, she said that she had a crush on Leo for many years and was very happy after they got together. But she didn't expect that as Leo's ex-girlfriend, I suddenly showed up. Relying on the friendship between the two families and our past affection, I kept pestering them and even forced them to divorce. She wanted to solve it privately and specially invited me out. What she got was my humiliation and scolding. I also blamed her for not being able to control her man. Even when the chandelier fell, I pulled and wouldn't let her go, resulting in her being seriously injured. After doing all this, I didn't even say an apology. I was leisurely managing the Yuki family group. She said she didn't want compensation. She just wanted an apology. At the end of the video, she even edited the recording of our conversation and only left the sentence, "Is your proud marriage about to break?" As soon as the video came out, almost everyone believed that I deliberately seduced Leo but failed. So I switched sides and tried to make Nina give up. When I found it didn't work, I hurt her. The Yuki family group has gradually grown over the years and has an extremely good reputation due to years of donations. Once this happened, the shares of the Yuki family group fell by the limit. Even the board of directors asked me to solve it as soon as possible. I thought Nina would use the marriage certificate to accuse me, but I didn't expect her to love Leo so much. Even though Leo ignored and humiliated her, she was still afraid of affecting Leo and chose to push everything onto me. But she forgot that false things can't become true. She loves so much and is willing to cover up for Leo. But I can't wait for them to go away together. Although all the things I had with Leo were burned, chat records and moments can't be faked. Those things were arranged by me with a clear timeline, which was enough to prove that Leo and I had never broken up in these 7 years. There was no such thing as an ex-girlfriend at all. And Nina's relationship of only half a year proved from the side that she was the mistress. I was just a poor person who was kept in the dark. Not only that, I investigated Nina's past and sent it online through someone. The detailed evidence was presented bit by bit to prove that Nina was not unaware. In fact, she liked Leo 6 years ago. In order to get Leo, she went to my school, imitated my behavior and dressing, and tried to be the same as me everywhere. She even went so far as to have plastic surgery to look a bit like me. After learning that Leo minded my 5-year relationship history, she deliberately approached Leo pretending to be pure and innocent. What's even more terrifying is that in order to better understand Leo, Leo's phone was also installed with a positioning and monitoring system. This is also the reason why she can get all the news so quickly. And for that edited recording, I also released the original recording. Nina thought her means were clever. She forgot that since I already knew that she and Leo were not good people, how could I be unprepared? The surveillance video and the recording were put up together. Not only that, I also imitated Nina. I smoked my eyes with onion water and put in eye drops to pretend that I had just cried and recorded a video. In the video, I detailed how I knew Leo since childhood. After ending that 5-year relationship, I was with Leo for a full 7 years. I seriously managed this relationship. But Leo kept delaying on getting married. He even had a big fight with me. Until one accident, when I wanted to buy a gift to ease our relationship, what I saw was him buying a diamond ring for another woman with a marriage certificate. He said that he felt that my relationship made him feel like marrying a divorced woman. So he got a certificate with another woman. He even firmly believed that I was willing to be a mistress for love. After I refused everything and broke up resolutely, what I waited for was his entanglement, Nina's false accusation, and the subsequent cyber violence. At the end of the video, I cried and asked, does having a 5-year relationship mean losing the right to an equal love afterwards? Once the video was released, it soon caused a huge stir. In addition to the entanglement between me, Nina and Leo, does a long-term relationship really equal getting married once, also became a hot search. Although people often say that time reveals a person's heart, having a serious relationship before getting married seems to have become a criminal record. What's even more ridiculous is that this criminal record seems to have a natural gender attribute. When it falls on a man, it is called deep affection. When it falls on a woman, it becomes a marriage without a proper status. Even if my relationship was from 15 to 20 years old. Even when this relationship ended in my prime years, I would still be belittled. It even makes people have arrogant thoughts, thinking that since I had this relationship, I am no longer pure and not worthy of entering marriage. Many bloggers also started to put forward their own ideas on this topic. Although there were some malicious comments mixed in, most people still agreed with me. Ray, who was in a relationship with me for 5 years, also went on his Weibo account to support me after learning about this. From 15 to 20 years old. In the eyes of others, it may just be a joke in youth. But for me, it is an extremely precious past. On the day we broke up, I asked her if she would regret this relationship. She told me no. The reason we couldn't stay together wasn't anyone's fault. It was just that we were both good but not suitable enough. Such unsuitability can only be discovered through the tempering of time and events. She said that she learned calmness, restraint, and stability from me. She didn't think this was a bad relationship. And what I learned from her is a brave, passionate heart that can cut off the past and start anew at any time. Having a long-term relationship is not wrong. The key is whether you have completely emptied your heart and can accommodate a complete her when starting the next relationship. But obviously, it is Yuki who is in a relationship with me, but it is Leo who can't get out. Here, I will not lament that Leo missed a very good Yuki. Instead, I will congratulate Yuki on starting a new life. More and more people support me, and more of Nina's past is also exposed. Many people who claim to know her are scrambling to expose various materials and expose her past mistakes one by one. But Nina couldn't listen at all and even at me and said, "No matter what, Leo is mine." "Yuki, you are a loser." Leo, who had been silent for a long time, posted on Weibo at this time and admitted everything I said. And frankly said that at first it was only because Nina was too similar to me that he was bewitched. This directly dealt a heavy blow to Nina. She cancelled her account, dropped out of school, and there was no news anymore. Once this incident happened, the stock price of the Yuki family group that had fallen rose by the limit again, while the stock price of the Leo family group kept falling. Even several partners cancelled project cooperation. When Leo came to me again, I had just won a project. At this time, he looked haggard. He didn't even have time to shave. Looking at me in wrinkled clothes, "Yuki, is it true that you went to the mall to buy a gift to ease the relationship?" Looking at Leo's haggard appearance, I couldn't help but chuckle. "Leo, what are you thinking? This matter is originally your fault. How could I take the initiative to make peace? Of course it was just a joke." Leo's face turned pale instantly, looking at me in disbelief. "Why? Yuki, have you ever loved me? Didn't you see that I posted on Weibo to prove it for you? Can't you give me a little chance?" Hearing these absurd words, even my secretary couldn't help but cast a disgusted look. "Mr. Leo, let me remind you. It was you who confessed. It was you who cheated. And it was also you who got the marriage certificate with someone else?" Our manager Yuki turned the tables, relying on the evidence she found in advance and the strict control of our group's public relations department. "If you really want to help our manager Yuki, why didn't you admit it at the beginning? You are really good at being a Monday morning quarterback." I stopped the secretary's next words and looked at Leo calmly. Thinking carefully, it seems that I haven't said my thoughts very formally. "Leo, you keep saying you love me. But in the end, you confessed to another woman, hugged, kissed, and even got a marriage certificate. You said you think I am not clean enough. But the fact is that you cheated and deceived first. You said you love me and don't want me to be hurt. But when Nina slandered and defamed me, you chose silence and ignorance. What were you thinking at that time? Were you fantasizing about me collapsing and crying? Being as weak as a delicate flower and unable to resist public opinion? So I can only admit my mistake to you wrongfully and beg you to help me once? Or were you thinking darkly about completely destroying me and making me bear the stigma? And then you save me in the posture of a savior and wash away the fact that you were wrong first?" Leo shook his head and looked at me helplessly and said, "Yuki, I didn't." "You say you didn't, but you did." I looked at Leo and mercilessly exposed him. "You think that the Leo family has great power and influence. But when has the Yuki family been weaker than the Leo family? Buying trolls, creating traffic, and even threatening people who speak up for me. I can find all of these. Leo, I am not a delicate flower growing in a greenhouse. After years of fighting in the business field, don't you think I can see it?" When leaving, Leo suddenly rushed up and wanted to grab my hand, but was directly punched hard by the bodyguard beside me. This was arranged by my brother. He said he was worried that Leo, that shameless person, would come to pester again. Now I didn't expect it to really be used. Leo was knocked to the ground. He still wanted to go over but was stopped by two muscular men who were 1.9 meters tall and not allowed to leave. Seeing that I was really about to leave, Leo quickly said, "Wait, Yuki, wait. I have divorced. I have nothing to do with Nina anymore." Let's forget the past and start over, okay? Looking at Leo, who was pressed to the ground by the bodyguard, I smiled gently at him. No. I despise divorced people. After such a big scandal, Leo's parents had to send Leo abroad to avoid the limelight in order to deal with the dissatisfaction of shareholders. After that, there was no news anymore. Until at a banquet, I accidentally heard about Leo's follow-up. After he was sent abroad, he was deceived by an unknown woman and became degenerate ever since. When he realized something was wrong and wanted to turn over a new leaf, that woman killed Leo and then committed suicide. It was only then that everyone found out that that person was actually Nina, who had had plastic surgery again. No one knows how she followed abroad alone and found Leo and led him to get involved in those things. After the banquet, the servant brought a mobile phone and asked if it should be disposed of since it was seen in the utility room. I turned it on. What I saw were a dozen missed calls. They were from Leo before he got on the plane. This SIM card was thrown in the utility room together with the mobile phone because there were too many people harassing me due to cyber violence. I changed to a new mobile phone and SIM card. Later, because of arrears and shutdown, it could no longer be reached. What did Leo want to tell me at first? Did he call again later? I smiled at the servant and handed the mobile phone to her. No need. Dispose of it. Just like those missed calls, all this is no longer important. There are countless stars outside the window. I have my own brilliant life. Nina, I have known since I was young that I will not be a normal person. My father is violent and alcoholic. My mother seems weak but always wants to secretly control everything about my father. When my father beats her, she will hold me in her arms and say softly and full of happiness, "Nina, guess where your father will beat me next?" You don't know, it's the head. He likes to hit here the most. He wants to kill me completely and get rid of me. But he was drugged by me and can't use so much strength. Nina, if you love someone, you have to control everything about him. I once didn't understand why my mother was so obsessed with love. Until I met Leo when I was 20 years old, intuitively, he is not a good person. I am better than Yuki in this regard. I recognized it at first sight. Even so, when he politely thanked me and looked at the door expectantly holding flowers, I still couldn't help but be moved. I finally understood my mother's words. Love has no principles. He is ugly, lazy, incompetent, and despicable. You will still love him. I rarely have something I want. But once I do, I will definitely get it. Just like many years ago when I killed my parents to get rid of that family. I carefully investigated everything. After learning that Leo minded that his girlfriend had a relationship history, I was almost crazy with joy. Look, a despicable, selfish, and disgusting man. It is clearly an equal relationship, yet one regards oneself highly. But it doesn't matter. I am not a good person either. I had plastic surgery to make myself look a bit like Yuki. This is my selfishness. On the one hand, I want Leo to treat me differently because of this face. On the other hand, I don't want to be Yuki's substitute. I studied desperately. I was admitted to the school where Yuki was. I studied the same major. My dressing and grooming are all similar. When I thought everything was almost the same, I planned my encounter with Leo. Sure enough, he wavered. I am very happy, but I can't be impatient. I have to take it slowly. So I gradually magnified Leo's concerns and led him to look at me. From the phone monitoring, I learned that Yuki wanted to get married but Leo refused. So I seduced Leo and aroused his interest. Confession, falling in love and even getting married. Everything went smoothly as I expected. Just when I was preparing to make Leo truly fall in love with me, Yuki discovered everything. She is more resolute than I thought. She broke up, burned all existing items, and left without hesitation. But Leo regretted it at this time. He went crazy and begged Yuki to get back together. Even without knowing that Yuki knew, he decided to divorce me. I panicked. I went to find Yuki and even deliberately took her under the chandelier with problems. Leo found here under my arrangement. I was looking forward to an answer, but he only noticed Yuki's small injury and didn't see me covered in blood. I couldn't accept all this and thought that ruining Yuki would be enough. But she is stronger than I thought and won a beautiful comeback. What defeated me was Leo's statement. I knew that he used the Leo family to help me frame Yuki. I also thought that he was resentful and wanted to ruin Yuki. But Leo just wanted Yuki to ask him for help. He is despicable and selfish. But he still loves Yuki. I know I failed this time. But it doesn't matter. Yuki won't get back together with Leo. I still have a chance. So I had plastic surgery and followed Leo abroad. I remember my mother's words. If a man doesn't love you, then make him unable to leave you. I don't want to use those long-term methods. So I used the fastest way to deceive him into making mistakes. Watching him be like me, indulging in luxury and dissipation and indulging freely. With the grayness of a dead person on his face, I was finally happy. We became the same kind. But he suddenly became sober. Holding my hand and saying, I know you are Nina. I recognized you from the beginning. These days are regarded as my compensation to you. But we can't continue to degenerate. Let's quit and start a new life happily, okay? Looking at his sincere appearance, I only felt extremely ridiculous. What start a new life? It's just that after seeing the news that Yuki may have an alliance through marriage, he regretted it again and wanted to chase her back. I understood why when the fire broke out, although my mother could take my father away, she still chose to knock my father unconscious. Holding my father in her arms with a happy face and being buried in the sea of fire. My mother thinks she is good at controlling people's hearts. She has controlled my father for decades. But she still can't make my father truly love her. Even after learning the news of her once beloved, she risked her life to resist my mother. That is despair. The despair of thinking you are sure to win but losing everything. My mother many years ago became me now. So I picked up a knife and stabbed Leo one by one. Watching him refuse to admit that he loved me even though he was in extreme pain. In a pool of blood, Leo lost his breath. I forcefully pierced Leo's body with a long knife. Then I hugged him without hesitation. Blood brought pain. Love and hate merged into the flame. Leo, you can never leave me in all lifetimes.